Good morning and welcome to another edition of Volusia County Issues. My name is Eddie Colosimo, also known as Crazy Eddie. My guest for this edition, again, is Nancy Epps for our second show, former mayor of Ponce Inlet. Good morning, Nancy. We covered some things last week on the last show, and we're going to recover some of those for the people who missed last week's show, and cover some additional issues that we haven't already done. First of all, let's go back to, you were the mayor for 3 years.
I was.
You were a council person for 3 years.
Right.
And now you're going to jump back in again.
Hopefully.
Are you nuts?
That's the plan.
Are you nuts?
I'd like to think not.
Why? Why are you doing this,
Well,
Nancy?
I have been asked that, of course, and it is because I love my town. It is not because I have a big ego. It is not because I'm crazy. I do love my town, and I have worked hard for it. I became a volunteer firefighter when I moved there in 1998, and I've been continually involved in the town ever since then. I was on the Charter Review Committee. I was on the part of the visioning plan. I was a council member for 3 years, and then I was the mayor for 3 years. I've continued to work with the community as an active member of the Ponce Inlet Lions Club. And I'm in the broader community too, in other organizations. So I just like being involved with my community, and I think it's important for someone who has a good grasp of the issues to represent the citizens.
It's good. It's good for everybody to be involved in their community one way or the other, or at least know what's going on.
Right.
What is your professional status? What do you do for, because I know that the mayor don't pay enough to eat and sleep on.
That's
What
for sure.
do you do for work?
I'm the laboratory director at Burt Fish Medical Center.
Okay, we didn't cover that last week.
No,
I'm sorry
right.
about that.
You can only do so much in 30 minutes, right?
That's right.
And as that's important, I think, to discuss a little bit, because there I have a $4 million plus budget, which is down $1 million from what it used to be. Is in the hospital business, as is in every other business, we've had to cut corners and, cut our costs. We don't cut corners, let me take that back. Our quality has improved while our costs have decreased. And that's my goal in all levels of my involvement, is to try to keep the quality up and find ways of doing things more efficiently so that you're keeping your costs down.
Burt Fish has had some unsettling news and things going on here recently, haven't they?
Oh, yeah. It's been quite interesting in my position. A lot of paperwork to fill out, a lot of changes to make.
So you have a $4 million budget that you're handling at Burt Fish on your job.
Right.
What's the budget for Ponce Inlet?
It's right around there.
Right around there?
Yeah, a little bit less, I think, right now, but it's, again, they've had to cut costs too, so.
They're saying a hospital has a larger budget than a town.
A department of a hospital, not the whole hospital.
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
The hospital is very expensive to run.
Wow. All right. When we ended last week's show, we were talking about the taxes in your town.
Yes.
Let's go back to those.
Okay.
Your tax rate is approximately, or where do you stand on the food chain for taxes?
I don't really pay any attention to the millage rate because that's totally tied into the property value. So
Right.
That's just a nebulous number as far as I'm concerned. It could be 5, it could be 1, and the amount of money that you bring in is what matters.
Yeah.
And the taxes have actually gone down every year for the last 4 to 5 years. So obviously 2 of those years I was in office, and then the last 2 years, the current and past council of the 3 resignees have also lowered it about another $1 million.
Wow.
So we're a pretty lean budget right now in Ponce. The only problem I have with the way our taxes are situated right now is that the homeowner is still bearing so much of the burden because this council has not encouraged business as much as I would like to see. I think that a small residential community can still have some healthy businesses without having a negative impact on the residences.
Right.
We need to have that dispersion of the burden of the taxes in order to take some of the burden off of the back of the taxpayer who owns a home.
Well, while we're talking about the taxes, then let's talk about the Placenta property.
Placenta.
Placenta.
Yes.
Okay. You've got a lawsuit going on there.
Actually, right now we're in the process of apparently of a rehearing of a lawsuit that was the town lost. They lost the appeal, and now they're asking for a rehearing on the appeal. So there's a lot of money gone down the drain in these lawsuits that, to me, were totally unnecessary, because most of it arose from the fact that a citizen's petition made a charter amendment that was a land use change that is not allowed by state law. Only the elected body can make land use changes. So it was clear to me from 2008 that this wasn't going to be upheld if anybody ever challenged it. And of course, the property owner did challenge it. So now we're in the final stages of having lost that. The next event will be, I guess they're supposed to go to mediation next month, and then there is a jury trial in August for damages. And the developers have stated in writing that they're asking for up to $20 million in damages. So
Wow.
there's a potential to have a really serious negative impact on the town that is very unfortunate, because I didn't think it needed to happen.
Yeah.
We could have made some reasonable compromises, and we were, but the citizens, a certain group of citizens, as always, conspired to try to take away their property rights, in my opinion.
Well, in a town so small, I imagine it's not too difficult for a group of people to get together and make some serious changes in your town.
That's true. And I have some campaign literature from one of the former council members that says in writing that her opponent, who was not me at the time, but this is just an idea of what happens, was a friend of the developer, and if you voted for him, you were going to get 60,000 square feet of dry boat storage. Well, the developer asked for that, but that is not what the council ever approved. We approved 10,000 square feet, and that was in writing, went to the Department of Community Affairs, they approved it. It was totally a compromise. It was a small building, it was a building, it wasn't open like Inlet Harbor. I thought it was totally appropriate because we had approved unanimously as a council the working waterfront plan, which was required to be addressed by the state if you're a coastal community,
Right.
as well as the manatee protection plan, which was also required to be addressed. So the two combined convinced me that we needed to get more boats close to the inlet to get them off of the river, not running over the wildlife. And I thought that 10,000 square feet of enclosed dry boat storage was very fair, very reasonable, would have a minimum impact on the community. And a certain group of citizens got together and convinced people otherwise. I heard, you know, this all hearsay, of course, but that they were telling people it was going to be 60,000 and 75 feet tall and things that were not true. But it's easy to just go up to somebody's door and say, will you sign this petition?
Yeah.
And you get 75 words or less on the ballot, so you can't really tell the whole story there either. And our community had committed, while I was on the council, to not spending money to propagandize on behalf of the town, basically. Well, where's the line between education and propaganda? You know, I would like to have educated people, but how do you do that without spending money? About the only thing you can do is go door to door, and so it really wasn't, the true story didn't get out to the general public.
Is it a small clique in your community that's running your community, or is it an organized group? What are they doing?
It was a PAC, and they had to form a PAC in order to put this on the ballot. I think it's kind of fallen apart since then, but I guess we'll find out.
All right.
This coming election, which is this fall, by the way.
Right. Yes. What's the date?
September 13th. It's an
September.
early date, so
Yeah.
it's important for people to remember that, because the council voted to change the date from what is normally general election in November.
Right.
Because we did almost have a tie one year. We were only off by one vote. And they were concerned that if there was a tie, the charter says that the sitting council member is seated in January, and then we wouldn't have had another election before that. You know, we would have had to really scramble to get an election in to resolve the tie. So that's why they changed the date. But I'm really concerned about low voter turnout because of it.
Say that again, as far as how close was that election?
One vote.
One vote.
One vote.
One vote.
So if you think it doesn't matter if you go to the poll that day, it does.
It matters. It matters. Get out and vote. I can never say that enough, often enough. If you don't think it matters, it does. As a matter of fact, I think there was one election in Volusia County here not too many years ago. It was finally decided by the flip of a coin, wasn't it?
Yep. Over in Deltona, I think it was, where Michelle by fall.
One vote with a flip of a coin. Now, do you want your mayor or your councilman or your commissioner elected with a flip of a coin?
We have early voting now, you have absentee voting. There's really no excuse not to get your vote in. You
Absolutely.
have 2 weeks of, well, I think it's going to be up to Ann now, how many weeks of early voting we have, but you have plenty of, I think it's 80 hours that the governor has allowed
It's
now.
it's not up to Ann. As a matter of fact, I heard her on a show the other day, and the state has just mandated shorter period of time. I believe it's 8 days, but it's like 10-hour days.
Right, it's 80 hours.
Yeah.
I thought it was up to her how she allocated those 80 hours, but maybe not.
No, well, no, she said on the radio show that I was listening to
Okay.
that she's got 8 days
Okay.
and 10-hour days.
But that's, if you can't get there in 8 days,
Yeah.
plus election day, plus the opportunity, you don't have to be gone. You don't have to be out of town to take an absentee ballot out. All you have to do is call the county elections
That's right.
office, go on the website, look it up in the phone book. It's easy to get an absentee ballot.
You can even stop by BFAR because we keep them here.
Oh, do you?
We keep absentee ballot applications here. We keep voter registration forms here.
That's wonderful.
And we will not turn them in for you anymore, but we will provide them for you.
That's good. Oh, yeah, don't turn them in.
No. They come out with some new laws on that too, and then the fines are pretty stiff if you don't get. I think you've only got like 40 hours from the time you get it to the time you turn it into the elections office.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And there's some very stiff fines involved there. So we are no longer turning them in for you. We were for a while. We're doing a lot of voter registrations, trying to make it convenient. There's no excuse
Right.
not to vote.
Right.
Yeah,
But please learn the issues before you vote.
Yeah, learn the issues.
Don't listen to your neighbor. Don't listen to the guy who comes knocking on the door. Take what information they give you and verify it.
And it's not that difficult to do a little research, especially with the advent of the computer. You can get on there. There isn't too much you can't find out about anybody today.
Right.
Get on there, check them out, spend a little time. And I've said this many times before while we're on the voting thing, because this is a pet peeve of mine. When you don't vote, you're slapping the face of our military.
They're out there fighting and dying to preserve our right to do so.
Absolutely.
Right.
And we have an obligation. It's not a right to vote, it's an obligation. We have an obligation to fight at home as hard as these kids are fighting over there.
Well put.
Very close to my heart.
Well put.
All right. What's your opinion on consolidating emergency services? There's been a lot of talk about that throughout the county and with the different cities and towns. How do
Right.
you feel about consolidating emergency services?
Well, I think we're going to eventually have to go to consolidation. My main concern and the concern of the citizens of Ponce Inlet is not losing our level of service as a result. We've discussed it over the years. We talked about consolidating with Port Orange at least once that I know of. And at the time, it really wasn't going to be beneficial to the citizens because it's sort of like, I want all of your stuff for nothing, and then we'll provide you the service the way we